So, Julie, our concept now is about voice and stance. And obviously, these are big concepts. So, I'm going to get AI to explain a few of them, and then I want to hear from you for what you think. So, when we talk about voice, voice refers to the sense of the writer or speaker that comes through a text. So, it answers the question of who do I sound like? And it's shaped by your tone, your style, the degree of personal presence, and your lexical choices. So you might have a narrative voice where you're a lot more personal, expressive, a scientific voice, a bit more impersonal, authoritative, or a legal voice, you're a bit more cautious and precise. Stance, on the other hand, refers to the position the writer takes towards the ideas that they are presenting. And so it answers the question of how am I positioning myself in relation to this claim? And it shows up through certainty or uncertainty, using words like may, must, likely, through evaluation, is it important, problematic, effective, through modality, hedging, boosting, etc., etc. So can you unpack for me why voice and stance are so important?
Well, let me just ask you, were you ever taught about voice or stance while you were learning to write essays?
No.
No, me neither. Nobody ever told me about anything about voice or, identity. The idea is that we should hide behind the words or the paragraphs and not include ourselves in. And you could get very strange writing like this because, let's think about like a reflective essay. Well, clearly you're reflecting on something that happened to you. And if you're saying, well, the author of this paper believes, you mean you? You have to use the I in a sense. And that freaks out, a lot of people because maybe all of us, I'm pretty sure we were explicitly taught not to do that. It's not something implicit. So I really feel like that's so ingrained in our thinking about writing in academia, like that we should never bring ourselves in. And so when we ask students to write reflective essays, we get these really weird texts, and it doesn't mean anything to anyone. So I think voice and identity, these are really big concepts that maybe, we have to unlearn, and then we have to relearn some new ways of thinking about this. So I guess me too. I haven't learned it myself, but I did something called an autoethnography for my PhD. And it is to look at my own experiences of growing up multilingually and how learning other languages has shaped the sense of my identity. And of course, you have to use the I for that. And you're not only are you encouraged, but you also learn that there are many ways to use the I. And it's not just one way. And I guess something that I really realized in being in that space was, because I'm also a diary writer as a child, I'm very comfortable writing myself into text. So when I have the opportunity or that genre allows me to do it, then I'm ready to experiment. And in experimenting, I found all these authors that I just I thought, wow, you can do that in academia. I give you an example that I give to my students all the time is Jerome Bruner's work, who I've read many of his papers. And one of his papers he wrote, I'm just going to try out an idea here. And I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but let's give it a go, And I felt like, whoa, you can do that? Could I do that? And I was a PhD student at the time. And of course, I cannot do that. And I thought to myself, why can't I do that? Well, the reason why I can't do it is because I don't have that authority yet. Jerome Bruner is when he wrote that, he must have been in his 60s or 70s. He had accomplished so much and he had probably 10 books under his belt and all that stuff. So it made me think a lot about how we have to become, we really have to have that knowledge, that expertise, and then we can speak with a certain kind of voice to to, do the things that we want to do with text. And the reason why I think I like that, though, is because he spoke so plainly, I felt like it grabbed me. I'm like, I'm going to read this. And actually, after that paragraph, it goes back into all the dense stuff. I'm like, oh, I feel like I've been, cheated. But it really, that making a first impression is so important, isn't it? And to really engage your readers. And that's the reason why I love that so much. And that's, at that time, I thought I can't do that right now. But one day, I will do that. And you do a lot of editing of my own work, and my work too. And more recently, and it's after like 15, almost 20 years of publishing myself, that it's only more recently that I write something like, picture this, right? Okay, you pointed out that out, the other day, and I was thinking, why do I do that all of a sudden? It's not all of a sudden. It's actually been built over time, all the publications, and now my audience is like more and more geared towards my grad students, my teachers, and they don't want to like read some dense, topic sentence. They want to be engaged. They want to be grabbed and hooked in. So imagine a classroom full of, picture this, like it's 2 a.m., blah, blah, blah. Like I'm just, I feel like I can do that naturally now. So that voice, right? It's how I think about it. That's fine definition, but very simply said, I would say we have like, when you and I, if we're just friends, we could say that we have a personality. I think of voice as my textual personality. What's the personality that I want to portray in my writing? Because writing, it feels so linear, right? Boom, 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 that's it. But really, like, I want you to know that I'm a person. There's a body behind this text. And this is who I am. And you'll need to read a little bit more and a little bit more to find out a little bit more about me. Do you think I'm a very serious academic, or do you think I'm going to be somebody really like that cares for teachers, or like whatever it is? You need to read on to guess who I am. But the thing is, I myself am learning about myself through my writing as a method of discovery. So it's not that simple to just like put my personality out there. It's through the writing and all this experience that I'm learning about my textual personality, aka my voice. Woo! Right? So voice, identity, these are the things that I understand for me of why voice is important. And because we never talk about it, that's why I want to talk about it. You don't have to wait until somebody does a PhD to talk about such things. The time is now to talk about who we are in our text. What is it that we want to convey? And it's from there that we might start to think about stance. How am I going to position myself? But I don't even know who myself is. Well, what am I positioning? Right? So I think that I want to put them very closely together, but the first thing to tackle, and is a humongous one, is the voice and identity. Is this opening up anything for you?
Yeah. I remember when we wrote our paper together, wrestling over the title was a huge thing. We went back and forth with 20 different titles from, language as a resource orientation, shifting from one to the other. And it just didn't seem to capture like the transformation that had happened in our relationship. And you really want a bit of yourself in that title so that it just, whacks the reader on the head and gets them thinking more about, do I really want to read this? Is it really going to impact me? Does what you have to say relate to my life at all? And I remember, you're like, how about we start with a verb, breaking, like breaking deficit views. And I thought, like that's that textual voice of just bringing yourself in there and how it felt for me. I really felt like, writing allows you to do that. And when you wrestle with it, it can be quite empowering with voice.
So like you've published now, and of course you did an amazing thesis yourself and all of that. When you go back to any of this work, do you feel any different when you read your textual voice?
I read my thesis the other day. the one that we did together in 2021, and you were my supervisor. And gosh, there were like 20 citations after one sentence that I was trying to write. Another citation here, there, citations everywhere. And it reminded me of, I think it was Alan Luke's chapter in your language and culture book, where he just spoke about just stop relying so much on citations. Just say what you want to say. And I think for me now, going through that whole journey of reading so much and of engaging with text and wrestling and writing it out 100,000 times in order to come to say, this is really what I want to say. And I don't need a citation for this part of this sentence, because I know that I put my heart and soul into it, and I know that it's an original idea that has evolved. Yeah, it just feels very liberating now when I have gone through that journey.
Okay, so you got the liberating feeling. I see how that has happened. Every time I read something that I wrote, and even if it's a master thesis, I think, oh my God, I'm so smart.
Nice.
Is that me? Did I write that? Because it's not because obviously, every day that I think I'm stupid, but it's just that textual voice that academia gives you makes you feel a certain way, right? That's identity.
But even in my when I went through grad school, I remember my assignments and even my references, you would pick it apart so closely, being like,
you're missing a comma here, this is the wrong font, this citation is incorrect.
And I didn't realize that all of that is part of your voice as well. Sure, it may be, a correction, but the identity of being a scholar, of showing that you've read people's work,
that's right,
of understanding that when you italicize this, this is a journal, this is a book, this is a chapter that you've read, and you understand the differences between eds./ed. Those are all the things that I screwed up when I was in grad school, and I didn't realize why it was so important. But it's important to my identity now as a scholar who's being, writing and publishing, and people are reviewing your work. You don't want to paint a picture of yourself that you're not sure.
And maybe that's the reason why grad students, if they're not publishing for the public, they're thinking, why do I need to be so perfect in this? Well, but the thing is, you enter grad school, you are going to be a master of something or a doctor of something. That's the identity that you're stepping into those shoes now. So you're in training. So that is your identity in training. And that's why you need to do that. Not because, I'm never going to be tested on this, or I'm never going to use it. It's no. That's the whole game, So I think that's such a great example. I think the other factor for me is because it makes me feel so smart. I think, this is the great thing about writing, because writing gives you time to experiment with voices. You know what I'm saying? When we're speaking, right? Everything is so demanding. If I can't think of the words, then I'm lost. I'm I have to be silent. But in writing, I have some time, and I can change those words. I get a more fancy word. I can change these structures. I look at somebody that I admire and kind of imitate the way that they do something. I can experiment and explore. And then that thing can become me, because once it's recognized, get that grade, or I publish it, that's me, right? So that element of writing, giving you time to do that, I think is such a great thing for multilingual learners, because while you're learning a language, you can't immediately express everything, orally. But when you're writing, it's giving you time to create another personality, that you can have these multiple, identities. And that's your writing, identity and your voice. And that's really cool. That really makes you feel like I'm more than what I can just do orally. I can, through written mode, I can do all these cool things. So there's this term, right, that's called transpositioning at the moment. And it's really talking about how we shift in and out of identities. Just as we have translanguaging, we're shifting in and out of languages, but maybe not even just shifting. We're using all of these languages, all at once. I'm thinking about the term textual transpositioning, because it's through the text. Like, for instance, I explained to you, kimchi is for everyone. I'm making that. And within that picture book. I am a teacher, a researcher, a picture book writer. I am somebody who loves kimchi and all of this. And, you can be all of that, shifting in and out of every page. Experiment, explore. And it's the important thing is not just that I have a picture book, is that I am able to make meaning in all these ways. And that makes me feel super cool. I'm not just smart. I'm somebody who knows stuff, can do stuff. I can connect with people. That's what makes it so meaningful. I'm not just somebody who can write academic essays and, articles, and that makes it fun. That makes literacy fun. And that's what I really want multilingual learners to understand. Like, they think that I suck at writing, I'll never be perfect, and that's why I have all these things with, digital tools. It's like, no, the digital tools can help you. But your meaning and your funds of knowledge and identity is first and foremost. So what do we need to do in education? Create that space, change those conditions so that they have an opportunity to get their voices in there, play with their identities a bit. You don't have to be perfect. Nobody's asking you to make a picture book overnight. You have a lifetime to do that, but you need some kind of stimulus. You need some kind of chance or opportunity to do something like this.
Amazing.